We are back, Chris.
Hello, everybody. So apparently we said some bad word. That
No,
internet
we
for
didn't
you.
say any bad word. Frankly, and to be very honest, I'm pissed. I'm no, not because the logo you were just showing. Um, Absolutely not. And we do not do uh, uh, um, any kind of advertisements here. We never do that. Never ever. Absolutely not. Oh, damn it. That's the wrong one. No. I'm pissed. And I'll tell you why. Because that what just happened. My Mac freezing and then basically boot looping, or looping at least for a while, and then shutting down and then really crashing and coming back. That is a problem known with macOS Mojave, which is the current version of the operating system.
Okay.
And I'm so happy that Apple yesterday released their next version, macOS Big Sur, or whatever it is called. And frankly, Apple, do it right this time. Please. Because that sucks. Right? It's not a hardware failure with the machine, it's nothing along those lines. It is just plain and stupid and don't know, not even unavoidable bad programming.
Bad programming. Hey,
Bad programming.
that's a perfect topic for our webcast here. Bad programming.
Bad programming. But let's talk about bad programming a little later because we will come to bad programming. Um, First, and we were there, and I start over with that. And I tried the same thing that just crashed my Mac. I tried to add you to the screen there as well. Where is it? It's, yeah, now it is perfect. So, our show is happily presented, sponsored, and transmitted to the internet by the Cloud Report.
Da-da-da.
I doubt that they have music, but perhaps we should perhaps create some open source music for them. What do you think on
Yeah, there is actually, a thing called Creative Commons. I don't know if you know of that, but I used to be a musician, and kind of the open source version of music is Creative Commons.
What do you mean by you used to be? I just understood just a second ago. I understood that you will be the one creating the new jingle and intro for everything presented by the Cloud Report.
Oh, awesome! I'll do that, but I'm not a kind of I never was really a professional. I don't know if you could
Is it?
call it that.
Are you just pulling away? Are you basically? Are your pants full? Is
Oh
that
no.
what you are saying to me right now?
I'll write a jingle for us, but the problem I've had with this in the past is, for me, a jingle also has vocals, and you really don't want
No,
me
don't
doing
worry.
vocals.
I'm going to sing.
The Cloud Report is great. It has a
Dum dum
lot
dum
of
dum
articles.
dum
La
dum
la la la
dum.
cloud and stuff is written. Something like that.
The problem is I was hearing us. But
With a
we,
couple of effects, that's all good.
yeah, we are technology guys, so we are able to make. No, we are not able. Frankly, we cannot do magic. It's simply
Right.
not possible. It's simply not. Sorry, Cloud Report. Do it on your own.
Ooh, telephone.
Absolutely. And I just said stop. Um, I'm going to call you back. I know who you are. I'm going to call you back. Promised. So, the Cloud Report is basically presenting this show, and we wanted to have the Cloud Report's editor in chief with us. That was the thing where my computer crashed because my computer basically got emotional. But she's sick. unfortunately, today. So she's going to be here next week. And let me put it that way,
Okay.
she cannot be sick every week. Just saying.
Hashtag just
Pressure.
say.
No pressure at all. Speaking of being sick, that is something which makes me sick. The thing that we
Hmm.
are going to talk about now. Because we are going to talk about privacy related stuff. Look at this. Let me focus that for myself. Have you read that message, that story that a subsidiary of Oracle called BlueKai was tracking you specifically,
Yeah.
but not
Yes.
you alone, but basically was tracking all of us over the internets, which is nothing new, frankly. Um, but they managed to not only collect a huge amount of data, they also managed to screw up. Like, screw up.
Like
So,
real bad.
yeah, so they have billions of records in their database, and the database was publicly available. That is
That's
awesome.
that's just kind of, the worst thing that can happen.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
what I took from this, and this is really, really sad because there are a couple of very, very established players in IT who started their business basically back in the 60s and 70s. Before there was internet, before there was computing as it is this way.
yeah,
And due to them having such a long lead on doing business, one of the really, really valuable assets these companies do have is data.
yeah, yeah,
And at the moment, just from what I've been reading over the last couple of years, the last couple of months, it seems to be a good common practice as a company. If you can't do the digital transformation and cloudification thing, you just start selling your data.
yeah.
Um, and this is really not only a problem on the side of a company like Oracle selling my data, but I was never made aware. 10 years ago, nobody cared about his or her personal data in the internet because we just never figured that people would do bad things with it. But when data awareness and privacy awareness came up, I figure, companies that I was using should have informed me, hey, we're going to be doing this and that with your data, which they did with incomprehensible TNCs. But in a case like Oracle, connected to 100 other companies, I could be doing something really, really innocent, like buying groceries, but because it's on an Oracle database at whoever retailer I'm using, my data could be out there in the internet. Um, and I don't figure that it's manageable in a cost range to really, in any kind of case, say like Christopher Branston bought toilet paper 3 weeks ago. He must have diarrhea, so I'll send him advertisements for anti-diarrhea medication. But it happens in
I
praxis,
told you about. Didn't I tell you about that last time? There was, or perhaps I just told it internally to our staff. Um, there are reported cases of basically women receiving birth kind of presents and utilities, pregnancy stuff, and they are not even aware of that they are pregnant.
right?
It is basically because they are mostly tracked. When you pay with your credit card, when you basically, specifically when you are participating in those kind of rebate programs, they track everything, and even you might not notice that buying, I don't know, chocolate and some vegetables would imply that you are getting pregnant, or that you are pregnant in that regard.
Yeah.
So that is, they received such packages and they haven't even been aware of that. So that is how good that works. And then, frankly, that thing is basically, you know, the biggest kind of accident that could happen, right? Um, if you,
I mean, the the question, what's your take on this? Is the problem now, or of course it's a problem that Oracle is doing what it does, but doesn't that kind of lead us to the topic of corporate responsibility and the CEOs and IT operators of this world actually needing to say at this point, I don't want to cooperate with this company anymore? And
Frankly,
I
would it
know
make sense?
pulling a database is hard, but as
Frankly, would it make sense? Because BlueKai is frankly one of the smaller players in the market. Just think of Google, think of Facebook and the likes. Where's the sense in basically, or what would you change if you would do that? Would it change anything? I mean, it would definitely affect BlueKai. And that would be a good penalty. Let me put it that way. But frankly, you cannot opt out of that kind of ad technology that is basically surrounding you, right? The only thing you could do is get some good ad blocker installed, get perhaps some good VPN installed. Basically, try to not to leave so many traces in the ecosystem. Um, that is the only thing that you could do. And
I mean,
perhaps check for vegetables and chocolate regularly, so you receive those kind of packages as well. I mean, I would
so I
check
mean,
them.
what's going to happen here for me? This actually is Cambridge Analytica just happened in industry.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, absolutely.
and you know what they did when Cambridge Analytica happened? They got the big bad evil guy who built this evil platform that Cambridge Analytica used the way they wanted to use it, and put him in front of the Supreme Court and had him explain stuff which he's in some form responsible for, but he didn't, create whatever problem they had. And what are they going to do now? Are they going to get good old Larry Ellison back on the floor, and say like, hey dude, see what you did there, now take responsibility for doing it? No, they won't, because it's industry and it's not about you as a private individual, which Cambridge Analytica was. And that is just such a twisted thing,
And
writing
did
own
it
rules for
change
industry.
anything?
No,
I
nothing,
mean,
nothing at
okay,
all.
Cambridge Analytica, got shut down, but that's basically because the name was, unusable. Nonetheless, the idea, the technology, the approach is still persistent. Frankly, online advertisement is one of the very few kind of advertisement approaches that is still working at the moment in times of COVID. Um, because, TV advertisement down for like 15%.
Hmm.
Cinema advertisement for whatever reason down by 100%. Newspaper advertisement down by roughly 20%, something along those lines. And a lot of outlets basically need to pay their bills, and they need to rely on that kind of technology. I mean, um, for example, look at the Cloud Reports website. There is advertisement.
Hmm.
And they need that to pay their bills. Um,
Right.
and me basically telling the world to use ad blockers is basically something which the guys, the folks of the Cloud Report better not hear, um, because it destroys their business. How would they generate revenue? Um,
So
so you need that kind of industry, don't you?
I really don't want to be the bad guy here. I'm an
You are.
evangelist.
You are.
I'm I'm open. But one thing that I think is a real shortcoming in all of these discussions is, now even we're pointing with our fingers at the big bad business people and their bad practices. But hey, why don't we just take responsibility for our own digital life and digital footprint, because that's a topic we never discussed. If you don't click on the little links to download movies and to see naked ladies and to do whatever you want, then you'll leave less of a footprint, or you need an anonymized profile. Or a big part of being safe in the digital space is the way you use it, and the perspective you have about the implications and about stuff that can happen when you're using this technology.
Absolutely.
And you know, I've been when I went to school, we had, like, for the whole school, we had one computer room with 486 machines, and they taught us Basic and Perl, which I never used in
Christopher,
yeah,
it's not different in most schools nowadays.
right. And why not scrap that crap, buy a couple of tablets for young people and teach them what privacy is about, and teach them what can happen if you're not precautious using the
Let me put
internet.
it that way. I'm totally on your side. I'm totally on your side. On the other hand, um, the internet is a huge kind of industry, right?
Oh
Um,
yeah.
and frankly, although we can basically go and say we do not want to have that kind of tracking and so on and so forth, we are citizens of that ecosystem.
Yeah,
And if we would just rely on what people, would publish without any kind of payment, feedback, whatever, um, it would be quite a narrow room. The internet would be quite empty. Um,
I think
but
that would be
perhaps
fun.
time.
Let's reset, let's relaunch the
I
internet.
was I was just looking. I just wanted to ask you. Perhaps it would make sense if we, as the users, would perhaps think of those things differently, and think perhaps of directly supporting websites. So I out myself. So I'm no, not that kind of outing.
Oh, it's all good. you know
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
uh,
Frankly, I'm fine with that.
I'm down for all the colors. I love them all. Rainbows.
Perfectly fine. I love rainbows and unicorns. No, but the point is, I pay for several news outlets such as New
Mhm.
York Times, Guardian. I have something over on Steady where I basically support one or two blogs with that kind of money. Um, and I basically pay for that. Um, and it costs me like, I don't know, $30 a month. Um, but that is just me. And on
Mhm.
the other hand, if all of us would do that, it could perhaps create a completely different kind of ecosystem. So I would be a happy part in that, although there would still be advertisements. But it could perhaps lead to more intelligent kind of advertisements, more engaging ones.
Yeah. I mean, funnily enough, a lot of the conversations I've had the last couple of days, and also, like in the other webinar I do on Friday, privacy has been a big topic, and your rights
It
within the
better
internet. And
is. It better is.
um, what I'd also like to mention here, is there's a great organization called EFF, which is the Electronic Frontier Foundation. You can find them at EFF.org. And EFF.org is basically an organization about freedom of speech, your own privacy, about data security. And it's a open organization of people who really, really care and who are advocates for digital security and securing not only your data, but securing your digital self, and in a very extended sense, securing your right of freedom of speech within the internet. Because if we make rules, these rules have to be set for everyone and not just a part of humanity, or just for private people, just for businesses, but it needs to be something very, very general. So my tip is, if you want, go to EFF.org and inform yourselves. And since it is an organization, you can also become a member and choose a package that you want to support them with. Do that.
And
Um,
with the EFF, that's not something that we discussed up front. Let me see if I can share it for a second. Um,
Oh man, that's me again. Not even sticking to the script. Oh God.
Uh, Hello, we are completely spontaneous. What is that's the wrong one. I don't want to show that guy.
Oh, hello, that's me
Better,
again.
but it's not what I wanted to show. I actually wanted to show an application. Give me a second. It's not that one. I want to show that one. Um, that's my. Let me check for something which is. Let me let's show our storyboard. No, let's show a new screen. Um, you see that small little kind of extension here?
Yeah.
That is a privacy badger by EFF. And you can
Yeah.
basically use that as an add-on. It works for Firefox. I don't know if it is available on other platforms, but it's one of the reasons I love Firefox so much because that is available there. And that kind of thing helps me keeping my privacy. So what can we show? Let's open Google, right? Um, so the privacy badger here. Okay, that's strange. No tracker visible. Um,
On Google. Oh
Strange thing.
man, that's a really bad example for
Let's
the moment.
go.
Uh-oh.
Let's go to something like the Guardian or something like that. So um,
We can go to cloudical.io.
see, that is what the privacy badger does.
Ooh.
Basically, it shows you all the ad scripts, privacy tracking scripts, and so on and so forth, and you can basically define what to do with those, such as with that kind of evil Facebook thing. I can say, yeah, okay, allow it, but there's nothing like a cookie being permitted there. And for other stuff, it is like, nope, forget it, right? And that is what the privacy badger is doing for me. And you would basically support, getting back to what you said, you would basically support the EFF in developing such tools. But frankly, then again, that is, from my perspective, still working on the symptoms, right? We
Yeah.
are working on the symptoms there. Um, Although, I'm afraid that we are not able to turn back the time. But I would wish for an internet where I basically pay for what I want to see, and all the other stuff might be free because they receive donations and money from other people that want to see like cat content or whatever, uh,
Yeah.
or
I mean, you
baking.
know, um, the internet or whoever it was, also managed to make me a better person by paying for stuff. For example, with Netflix, I remember back in the 90s, my biggest hobby was going to torrent sites and downloading whatever I wanted, because who knew there were digital rights or something like that? That's something they had to show us. Um, and the thing was, there was just no alternative. There was crappy German television, which annoyed me really, really bad, which had far too much advertisement compared to what they were delivering to me. But then at some point came Netflix, and Netflix didn't only, give me this awesome platform for $10 a month with thousands and thousands of series and movies, but what they did is they reached out to their partner ecosystem and figured, like, how does Chris consume us? And then they said, well, he's not going to sit in front of a laptop all the time. Tablets weren't all the rage back in the day and not powerful enough. And so they started putting their app on smart TVs. And from my TV, I have my ultimate dream I had back in the day, which was streaming movies all day long as much as I can. And that's why I'm saying, that might be a bit too far of a discussion, but where I'm seeing, corporate responsibility in actually identifying with your target group that you're trying to sell to, and actually finding solutions that will help me adopt a technology which will make the world better. That's coming back kind of to what I do in my real life, being an evangelist for an open source company. But yeah, we're still kind of in the baby age of the internet. Think about it.
Although it is a multi-billion kind of dollar industry, and that, Chris, that was elegant. Love you for that. That brings us to the next bad news.
Oof.
Um, Our all darling Google,
Oh yeah.
they lost another, you know, kind of appeal because they are forced to pay around 50 million euros in fines in France because Google was not sufficiently clear and transparent with Android users about their data protection options. Who would have thought that in regard to Google? To me, that is a big surprise.
Yeah. I mean, we're back to this topic. Companies feigning friendliness and feigning this user friendliness, if there's not going to be one person out there, that's what it was actually about, with coming back to Cambridge Analytica and Mark Zuckerberg saying, like, yeah, we wrote it all down, we have paragraph over paragraph over paragraph of information telling you what we do, what we don't do, what your right is, what.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
nobody's going to do that, because by the time, the actual problem with that is, even if I was hardcore and I said I'm going to read all of the freaking terms and conditions that Google has, by the time I'm done with reading them, they've already have launched new terms and conditions.
and
Or
what would you change? I mean, you read it, and still, if you don't have your iPhone, talking about Android there, you would be forced to accept them, or you would have a completely unusable device because Google simply would not, allow you to use it.
and
You would not be able to use the Play Store, the Play services, whatever. Or you would be forced to go the Huawei route, which then would not send your data to the United States, but instead to China.
so, funny story on that one. Bad character, bad jokes, Chris being a bad person. So in Germany, there's a thing called Rechtsschutzversicherung, which is kind of your legal insurance, which means you pay a small fee, and if you do need a lawyer, there's an insurance who will pay for it. So when I first signed my legal insurance, I figured, like, wow, this is awesome. I don't have anybody to sue because I'm not really, I'm a
You can
sunshine
sue
person in
Google.
my. Yeah, and so I went there, and I had another lawyer friend who I was asking, where are these cases where we can make a principal case out of it? And so he gave me a couple of tips, and I, took my little card you get and went down to different lawyers saying, like, hey, insurance is going to pay. Can we please sue Apple? Can we sue Google? And can we sue Facebook? And the
And have you been
funniest,
successful?
no, because I got a letter from my insurance saying they kicked me out due to unreasonable request.
Ah, who would expect that? Who would expect that to happen?
Oh well.
All industry, what are you expecting?
I mean, the ultimate, the really ultimate ratio of the whole thing is, the rationale. Either I have to accept that nothing in the world comes for free, and big bad technology companies will be doing what they do, and I stop using their services, or basically I just have to arrange myself with them doing whatever it is they do, and
But
that's
but
why I think.
but frankly, again, what would be your plan B? Right? You need to arrange with those services, uh, and that's it. I
So
mean, frankly, I
I
can
have
give
an
you some tip
idea.
on your Android device. You can install something like a system-wide ad blocker that, for example, AdGuard. But that is then basically installed via site loading. So you have another issue in regard to permissions and in regard to safety of your device. You can basically opt out of most of Google's services, but nonetheless, they will spy on you because that is what is used to pay the bills. You get your Android device for cheap because you pay Google with your data. And Google won't allow you to completely get out of it. Or on that matter, Huawei wouldn't allow you on the Huawei kind of phones.
Yeah,
Because that is what they use to make money.
yeah. If only, like, if probably only 15 or 20% of the worldwide network and device users, we should do it like Greta did. I'll make myself a sign, And on Wednesdays, I'll be in front of the Zuse building with my little sign saying, Wednesdays for privacy. And if we could only find one day where worldwide for maybe 2 or 3 hours, everybody out there switches off their router, their devices, everything that's connected anywhere, a big part of these multi-billion-dollar companies would be bankrupt within about probably 2 or 3 hours. And that's actually the reality of it. Um, but yeah, that's the tricky part. I'm wrapping my head a lot around what is a community and how do communities work together. What's the difference between equity, equality? Where is my freedom of speech? Um,
It's here, by the way. It's here.
oh, oh,
As long as you don't say anything wrong.
shit, fuck, oh, sorry. Damn. Now we have to put a little 18 plus sign on the side. I'm so sorry about that. But it's about coming together, and what we need to learn in the internet is actually what guys like Mark Zuckerberg did back in the day, and people even before him, was be idealists and say, I'm going to give you guys a platform to express yourself and
Absolutely.
to be yourself and become yourself digitally. Um, but in a majority of the cases, we don't use this right. We just get very, very annoyed when somebody uses that technology against us.
There is one company, nonetheless, that is making Google and Facebook nervous. You know which company?
Which one?
Apple.
Ink?
No, not Ink. It's Apple. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, they are still collecting data, right? But within your Apple device, you already have a lot of privacy built in.
Hmm.
So it's pretty much impossible for apps to circumvent that. Um, you are not able to, at least as long as you don't exploit any kind of issues with the device, to basically track your position without your permission and so on and so forth. And you can easily change that, by the way. And WWDC is currently going on, Apple's developer conference. They
Worldwide Developer Conference.
absolutely, and it's the first time that it is going to happen completely virtually. I've seen some of the videos; it is quite creepy, but that's a different story. But what they just announced yesterday was just a very small fraction of their keynote. But that was a very important thing because with iOS 14 next version, developers will have to disclose exactly what information their apps collect about users. It is part of their new privacy policy, of their new App Store policies. So that basically makes Google and Facebook and Twitter unhappy, let me put it that way. They are scared as hell because you will see such messages that basically tell you which data, such as financial info, contacts, browsing history, location, purchases, identifiers, contact, location data, whatever, is collected of you, and which data is linked to you, and which data is used to track you.
Mhm.
Um, and that is basically, that's perhaps not turning back the wheel, but it gives transparency. And I
Yes.
really, really, really like that, because nobody is supposed to spy at me. Nobody is supposed to look at me. Nobody is supposed to collect more data than necessary to provide a specific service. Um, and I feel like at least Apple is, doing some very bold moves there.
I mean, Steve Jobs used to be a philanthropist while he was alive. And I'm not a fan of Apple. I hardly use any devices. I have an iPhone that I use for work. But otherwise I don't. But one of the very, very bold moves which I think which was so much deeper than it was discussed in media was I don't know if it was Tim Cook already being CEO or if it was still Steve Jobs, but there's been multiple occasions where states have tried to get Apple to open up and hack their own devices and give out user information. And what Apple said there was saying like, no, we do have terms and
Still,
conditions.
they do that.
Yeah, and that's where I'm saying that's actually a very,
Kudos,
very fair
kudos to them.
digital move, because if there's rules, these rules are there for everybody, including presidents and states and whoever contacts me.
Absolutely.
And that is where I think corporate responsibility is being taken very, very seriously, although Apple is a very, very big, bad billion-dollar corporation doing whatever they want. But that was a
Hey,
great move.
yeah, that is what I basically value in regard to Apple. Although they are the most valuable company in the world, um, they are still, or perhaps specifically because of that, they are trying to be the good ones. Not such as Google, who said, "Don't be evil." Apple is trying not to be, at least try not to be evil in all areas of their business. They definitely want to make profit. They definitely want to get you into their ecosystem. They want you to live in their golden cage. And they do everything for that. But,
Yeah.
and that is what makes that golden cage so appealing, then frankly, even to guys like me who basically hate to be told what to do and what not to do. Um, that golden cage has an emphasis on security and on privacy. And it has an
Yes.
emphasis on sustainability. They still support 5-year-old devices. They still try to improve those devices in regard to functionality. Um, and yeah, although the default search engine within iOS is Google, they try to do everything, perhaps not everything, but many things to protect your privacy, even if it would imply that you get in conflicts with governments, presidents, POTUSes, and perhaps even aliens. The point is, that is why I buy Apple products.
Yeah. I mean, also the kind of a company, a network, a platform, community, whatever it is always only as strong as its weakest link. That's something you
Absolutely.
hear so very, very often. And a company that has billions of users cannot and should never ever expect that everybody using their devices is technical or knows what they're doing, or generally has an idea about what security privacy is.
Yeah.
um, and you have to protect everybody in the network. And by giving a very, very fixed rule set and a very, very fixed functionality, you're doing exactly that. You're actually protecting. The question is, it's, I don't know, like in one of those apocalyptic movies. You're in the safe space. You're in the zone where the zombies don't come. But if you're figuring you're strong enough, you have a big gun or something, you can
They
go
still
outside, do
tell
it,
you
but you
to
might
stay
get
in.
eaten.
They force you to stay in there. Yeah, yeah. That is basically where protection becomes some sort of dictatorship, right? Or could become something
It
like.
depends what the company does with it, but I'm figuring if you're as big as Apple, and if you make as much net profit per device you're selling as Apple does, your users and their experience and their well-being will be somewhere at the very core of what you do. Otherwise, it won't work. We are too
Yeah,
informed.
yeah.
30, 50 years ago, stuff didn't pop up in media because all we had was newspapers, and we had local journalists, and either they had, information they
But
could tap
today
on.
we have fake news. Fake news. All is
Fake
fake
news.
news. Fake news.
But
Fake
I
news.
heard, or what I've seen and read about, and seen in keynotes that, for example, Mark Zuckerberg gives. They're working really, really hard on reducing the amount of fake news and reducing the way stuff is displayed to us. And if that, in the worst case, means putting up a big bad banner saying like, "Are you stupid, dear user? This is obviously fake." If you want to believe in it, go for it, but you're stupid if you do. And maybe, unfriendliness
Yeah,
towards the user
that
could be the
basically
new
is then
user
again
experience.
you as a company are telling the user what to think.
But why should I be, or how can people get pissed about that? As a really, really bad example, if I constantly keep joining groups on Facebook, which are obviously titled Neo-Nazis Nuremberg, Neo-Nazis Berlin, I keep clicking the videos that say foreigners are evil, it all sucks. How the hell can I get mad at a machine, at an algorithm that then figures, hey,
Because
this
it
guy's a Nazi,
contradicts
I'll show
you.
him Nazi content?
It contradicts you, one thing, or it shows your ugly face in the mirror.
Yeah, that's the problem with it. It's a mirror for the people, and they'll see, they'll see themselves. But
Absolutely, absolutely.
I
But
wouldn't, I wouldn't.
it's a very narrow kind of route you have to go.
Yeah,
It's something like censorship is not always coming from, I don't know, bad intentions. It might be coming from very, very reasonable and serious intentions, but it leads to bad results because it
I'm.
can be exploited.
Yeah.
It might be too much. There is too much kind of personal opinion in it. So, what do you make out of that? It's a very, very narrow road.
I mean,
You are
it,
just
it
one step
it's
to
kind
the
of
left.
comparable. Yeah, but that's why I'm saying a lot more people need to think a lot more about themselves than rather the company or the platform. If I have a 500 horsepower car, and there's a sign there telling me you can only go 80 here, they probably, whoever put the sign up, thought something while doing that. But my car has 500 horsepower, so I can do 250. And if I then do 250 there and I crash my car, am I going to be mad at the car and the car making company, or might I, figure like,
Put it
hey,
that
this.
way, Chris, let me put it that way. You see the kind of discussions going on in regard to Corona. It is definitely the car maker who is to blame. It is definitely the car who is to blame. And it's definitely the one having brought in the sign because it was not expressive enough
Yeah,
or not close enough to the real danger zone, or it was too close to the danger zone. It's always the others, not you.
yeah,
You are right.
yeah.
And if there is such thing, such that kind of 80s sign, that is just meant to basically regulate you, to enforce things on you, right?
I'm, you know,
To
I'm
cut
gonna go.
freedom.
I'm gonna go very, very deep maybe into my own psychology, but I keep telling people nowadays, and just due to also recent happenings, when somebody gets shot, it's not the gun that killed the other person, but it's the person who used the gun.
Yeah.
And that's kind of along the lines of what we have to think about here. It's you do have you one thing you can never do is give away your responsibility for personal issues, personal things you're doing, personal choices you take. And if we start training the world more and thinking more along of the lines that I am responsible for my own life, thinking, and freedom, that would probably help. That would empower a lot more people.
Where is your freedom ending? Then again, think of those kind of mask wearing regulations at the moment. Um, every day when I go to the supermarket, frankly, I do not go to the supermarket every day, but you get the point. Um, I see people getting in there without wearing a mask.
Yeah,
And their argument is that's my personal freedom. It's all a hoax.
it's all just a big joke, But then I can punch a guy like that in the face and say that's my personal freedom.
You could do that, but then you would be just some guy of Bill Gates, I don't know, gang, and you are just trying to impose world domination on that guy.
Oh man, that's yeah. I'm not sure. It's a toughie because um,
Oh yeah,
I you know the deeper and deeper we get in our webcasts talking about topics, and the more I do my everyday work, and the more I interact at the moment with digital technology, it's a very, very good question you ask. But where do you draw the line? Where does your personal freedom
Frankly,
begin and where does it end?
I'm reflecting on myself in regard to that because usually I tend to have a very clear opinion. Um, but when the both of us are talking, I'm quite often taking, just for principle, the opposite kind of stance. Um, and it makes me think, where do I draw the line and why? Perhaps that's even more important. Why do I draw the line? And again, speaking of, for example, wearing a mask or not wearing a face mask, um, I'm I know why I wear a face mask, and it's basically because I want to take care of others. I do not want to bring others into any kind of dangerous situations. Um, but on the other end, that's just me. And if people feel like that's too much expected from them, they would interpret that as some sort of pressure. And they would say, yeah, there's somebody who is imposing something on me. And although I feel like they are absolutely not right there might be similar situations, not in regards to wearing a face mask, but
Yeah.
perhaps in other situations where I would be on the other side of the fence and of the line. So it makes me, it should make me and should make you and pretty much should make everyone listening and watching us at least question themselves. Why do they do that? And frankly, you better have a good explanation because the bad kind of government is enforcing something on me. They want to spy at me. That's not a good answer at all. I mean, if they do, frankly, I would totally second that. But most of the governments, perhaps besides the British one, the American one, and the Chinese one, and perhaps the Russian one, are not doing that. And that's why I use that app here. It's a Corona app. And please no, now um, block me because I'm listening to state advice. How could I?
Awful. That's also, if I've been in breakups with girlfriends, and that was the same. At the beginning, everything was good. We got together. We're all a little lovey-dovey, romantic, blind, whatever it is. And at some point,
I,
when you get deeper and deeper, oh, that sounds so wrong.
that
When
sounds very wrong.
when
That
you get
sounds
more and
wrong.
more involved into your relationship, at some point, that just came the point, where this girlfriend is starting to discuss with me about all the foundations we actually already laid, saying like, I don't like your tattoos, get rid of them. I don't like the way you talk. When you get up in the morning, you're too slow, blah, blah, blah. Trying to change the whole system we've actually established, and through kind of this mental, emotional band called a relationship actually agreed on. And you know what my answer is there?
Huh?
That's where they left the door when they built the house. If you're really not so cool with everything I do, then leave. And it's the same. If somebody's standing here saying like the German state is awful and it's all like this conspiracy between Bill Gates and Angela Merkel and all of them, I'm saying, well then I
There's
don't
the
know,
door.
move somewhere else if you believe in
They
that.
just reopened the borders. There's the door. There will be some place for you on some island. I hope.
Yeah.
Hopefully an uninhabited one, because I would not be happy, you know, for the other ones living there.
I heard there's like so much water on the planet and you could do reverse evolution, and grow fins and go back into the ocean.
That's a good one. Somebody needs to start that.
Reverse revolution. Now we do have the Corona app, which is reverse Tinder. Why not start reverse evolution?
But frankly, again, I have the Corona app here. Wait, I want to do one thing because you are not visible now at the moment. Perhaps it's going to crash anything then again, but nonetheless, let's do that. There he is. So I have the German Corona One app here, yeah, and I frankly I played that game. It's a bad game, I tell you. It's quite boring. I already played it for like 7 days already, and I basically finished level one. Never started level two. Simply not starting. So boring game, really boring game. But I'm
Really boring.
because Angela tells me no. I don't do it because of that reason. I do it because I care about others.
Exactly, because you don't primarily care about yourself, but you care about others, and that's the point behind this app, and that's the point behind doing it and wearing a mask. It's not for yourself; it's for the others.
But
And
Chris, if you do, have that app installed, isn't your government spying at you?
well, okay, let them. You know, I am all up in digital rights and in privacy and all that stuff. No kidding. Um, but yeah, so okay, then the government tracks me. You don't think they track me when I pay with my card somewhere? You
At
don't think they track me
please,
when I fly
please
somewhere?
complain on Facebook about that.
Yeah, like that's what I was saying earlier. I've just accepted the fact that technology and algorithms and companies are the way they are, and I'm okay. Anything I put on Facebook, I'm putting in the open anyway. Anything I'm putting
Yeah,
on YouTube,
yeah,
it's
exactly.
it's out there anyway. So if you
But
if you
it's your
see,
decision.
yeah.
You know what
So
to do.
if there's topics I really don't want anybody to know about, opinions I shouldn't be
I simply
spreading,
don't post them.
amen.
Or I take appropriate measurements.
Right. Exactly.
And or. Not or. And
Exactly.
or.
A topic we've never talked about here. Maybe that's a good idea for next
Are
week.
you are
Is
you getting away from the script again? Because we
yeah,
completely crushed the script anyway, so go ahead. Just go ahead.
because actually the internet is a total joke. The internet is like only this much of the whole internet that's out there,
The World
because we do
Wide
have stuff.
you are referring to?
I'm referring to the darknet and
No, no, don't say it. They are coming at us. The darknet. How dare you say this bad word? Because darknet is criminals.
yeah, right. And also, like only a small part like this is the actual criminals, because my company network is part of the basic darknet, because it's not indexed on Google, it's not findable. Same with your company's network, same with a lot of stuff that's just set to private. And that's maybe also something interesting we could talk about, saying like,
Chris,
yeah,
why don't you let it getting indexed? Because is there something you want to hide from
definitely,
others?
definitely all the time. Otherwise I could
But that
walk around
makes you
naked,
suspicious.
but people wouldn't like that.
Frankly, I usually tend to use an image there. If you feel like you have nothing to hide, because that's what many people say.
Oh,
I have
I
nothing to hide. I tell them, then kindly give me your account number, your login password, and hand over your mobile telephone to me
I
because
mean, what I am
I'm,
willing
I'm
to
then
share
just investigating into your bank account. No worries there.
what I am willing to share with the internet here is, if I want to, oh, can I see my phone now? If I want to unlock my phone, um, oh, it's not working now. I just wanted to show the world, my password to unlock my phone. So enjoy that, everybody. Talking about privacy and stuff not being on the internet. Oh, that's fucking funny.
My picture is frozen.
My brain just rolls. But
But
just
Chris,
getting at a
don't
point
you
here.
don't you have? Sorry, that's wrong. Picture I was showing. Don't you have nothing to hide?
I do have a lot to hide, but also here, like with the move I just made, I also, as a good shield for myself, can use my responsibility. For one, I can just after this call change,
No,
uh,
no, that's not possible. No, I do
you
not
know,
allow that to happen. No, no,
or not
no.
lose my phone. I also didn't tell people what my Android username is. They don't have my number. There's a lot of puzzle pieces missing, but that's exactly it. That's the internet back in 2020.
I will tell you later on. Just stay with us once Chris is out. I tell
Yeah. But yeah, there's so much more about how I react and what I do and the responsibility I take for my personal digital well-being, and not so
you.
much
But Chris,
anything else.
now be very open to me.
Oh, okay.
Dum, 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 dum. Have you installed Tor browser?
No, never. I have never used, or like I've never been to the darknet. I just haven't. Is that am I missing something? Is that a bad thing? Is that like kind of a piece of knowledge I should have?
If you want to speak about privacy and open source and security, you better have.
Really?
No, but you
I
shouldn't
mean,
be afraid. You shouldn't be afraid of that either, because frankly, I mean, we are so much beyond our time. So, anyways, we can stick with that topic. Um, no, but on the other hand, perhaps you should. Because what I am totally contradicting is that kind of perception that the darknet is just about and around criminals. The
no.
darknet, the thing they call the darknet, not the thing that is not indexed. The darknet that which they are pretty much referring to the Tor protocol and that kind of you have your data hopping through several kind of nodes, every time being re-encrypted and so on and so forth. Um, that is basically the ultimate privacy tool, although it is not without any flaws, because first of all, if you happen to control the exit node, where basically the data is then transferred to your local device, might still be that you see things that you are not supposed to see. And on the other hand, it
Right.
slows down many things. But the darknet, in general, is about privacy. It's the ultimate kind of privacy because you are not trackable, at least not without compromising some of the infrastructure. Um, it is not possible to basically understand and even, have a feeling of where somebody is residing and where he actually is heading to. That's why definitely, and I totally second that aspect in there. Not second, but I totally see that aspect in there. That's why it is widely used within criminal areas of our community. But nonetheless, it's also used by privacy advocates. And now comes the funny thing. Even Facebook has a darknet entry into the ecosystem. Um,
Hmm.
and although that is just, to me, that's just a funny kind of keynote, a footnote, it makes a lot of sense on the other hand, because um, it would, and it makes Facebook accessible for people that do not want to get tracked. So if you are, for example, sitting in one of the very very hard kind of dictatorships of this world, like Russia, China, USA, and you want to basically use Facebook um, to enjoy your freedom of speech kind of rights without getting tracked, you would perhaps consider using the darknet. Darknet was widely used in the Arabian Spring movement. It is widely used for by groups that are basically trying to um, not get infiltrated by the government. Um, and on the other hand, yeah, many criminals use it. Although rights still apply, and you still have the rules of law that apply there. So if you misbehave in that regard, um, you are still to be charged.
Yeah,
You can be sued.
we're back to the personal responsibility. Long times before we even had the internet or anything else, there were criminals too. People selling drugs,
Absolutely.
people killing other people, calling out hits, I don't know, child pornography, all this crap. And it's not the technology that made that happen. And yeah, if you go into the deep web, into the dark net, it's your own responsibility of what you're going to do there, and you're going to have to take this responsibility to maybe even put it on a, I don't know, more mental romantic level. It's, karma's gonna get you. Whatever you do good and good will happen, do bad and bad shit will come down your pipeline.
Basically, that would be the ideal kind of situation. I do not second that. The karma thing, I totally second. But on the other hand, um, there are things as oppressive states. There are things as dictatorships, as in the United States, as on some places in the world. There are such things. So you need to have a room which at least technically provides you some cover. Although, then again, it is still possible to track you. It might be more effort, um, but at least you are not exposing yourself so much. And that, then again, is pretty close to what Apple is doing, what you were referring to. Like, yeah, no, we do not comply with orders to unlock iPhones, uh, uh, even if they were used by criminals and terrorists. And I totally get why they do that and why they say that, because ultimately, where do you draw the line?
Exactly.
So,
I
still, the kind of responsibility is there. And yeah, there might be exploits within the iOS ecosystem, perhaps even exploits that are known to Apple and which they willingly not fix to provide perhaps some sort of an indirect kind of backdoor. I would never say never on that. Um,
yeah,
but at least in regards to corporate responsibility, there is frankly, there are few companies, at least few companies of that kind of size and importance, that behave that way. Looking at you, Google, looking at you, Amazon, looking at you, Microsoft, right? And we were far off our basic script, but let me show you and give you some more examples there. Just let's not discuss them in depth, but let me just get over them, because they basically add to that. A company which is basically not complying to their own duties and to basically their responsibility is Netgear, because there are several problems with Netgear routers at the moment. Uh,
yes.
79 models are affected
Wow.
by and what I if I read it properly, and if I interpret that properly, by some security issues that basically started getting visible in 2007, like 13 years ago. They still haven't fixed them. They have been informed on those issues at least for half a year now, and they haven't done anything. So that is a very, very interesting piece of corporate responsibility not taken care of.
Yeah, they're probably locked in their own proprietarianness, or however you
Yeah,
would
yeah,
say.
absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
Because we've had a lot of, for example, a lot of exploits in the Linux world, Meltdown, Spectre,
But not
Heartbleed.
only
But you know what the good thing is, when something like that happens in the open source and Linux world, we have a what?
they just fix it.
Exactly.
Again,
We
is what's
make a
happening.
we make a CVE, and since everything is open and everybody's kind of using the same kernel versions, software versions, package versions, if one guy or one team or one company manages to fix the problem, they just give it back.
Absolutely.
Um, and they can patch it and fix it for all. And
They
that
make
is,
it available. Absolutely. That's exactly the point. They make it available. But those guys, even though Netflix routers are Linux based, they just ignore it. But they are not the only one. They are not the only ones. That was a news that I was basically like, paw, when I read that. Microsoft, who just recently announced that they are not selling anything to the police because, we are the good ones. They pitched their facial recognition software to the DEA like a year ago or 2 years ago, and they did that quite aggressively. So they have been aware of the problems with those pieces of software. Like we talked about that last time, like basically not being able to distinguish between colored people, or perhaps being racist in their way of having been implemented. Um, but they tried to pitch that. They tried to pitch that aggressively. Um, and if you look on the emails that have been obtained by the ACLU, and I have them open here, you should skip through them on your own. But if you look and read them, that basically makes you just want to cry and want to yell at them, because ultimately um, they were totally aware of the problems that might be coming with that kind of technology, but they did not care. Just
yeah,
wanted to make business. I mean,
that's exactly it, because the weirdest part is every other company on the planet is saying they won't sell anything to any police. Now comes up the DEA, which is the Drug Enforcement Agency, and probably some intelligent sales guy said like, oh no, this is for a good cause, it's against drugs and against cartels and against bad people. But factually, what they're doing is giving themselves kind of a lockout, because um, this would be the last piece of choice a business person has to say, who am I going to do business with? And if I don't draw a very, very certain line, and if I don't message very, very clearly what I as a company believe in and who am I willing to do business with, is basically the first step towards ruining my company. And it's weird, I've seen the other side. I've seen Microsoft plopping up with Microsoft loves open source, and they had a great open source conference, and they were talking about connecting people and doing something for the actual end user. So this came kind of as a shock, saying like, why the hell would I do this? Why the hell would I enable something like that? I just can't wrap my mind around it. That I couldn't make any sense of that deal.
voice biometrics. Frankly, what could possibly go wrong? What could possibly go wrong with that? Frankly, I totally get it, at least on several levels, that state authorities want to be able to identify, they want to be able to track down, because law needs to be enforced. Absolutely. But that kind of blind technology acknowledgement, that kind of thinking of, yeah, we just need some good technology and everything will be fine. There does not need to be any control implemented in there. That just makes me, and I want to remain
You know what would be a real
friendly.
funny coincidence? If the cartels that the DEA are fighting are already Microsoft customers using all the great AI and technology.
They do.
And the greatest thing nowadays is
They do.
then actually the DEA could meet with the cartel on Teams. Boom, make another deal,
Frankly, they do. Um,
right?
they all use the same infrastructure, and that, then again, is an interesting thing in regard to such companies such as Microsoft, Amazon, Google. I don't want to. I don't want to imply something here, but it's quite a known kind of strategy to basically work on both sides of the line, because they have not been aware of those guys being the bad ones. I
Yeah.
mean, looking at their tools,
Ah,
they should have
ah.
done that. But it's way easier to collect the money and then give backdoors, and then basically, comply with the authorities, be their best friends. What
I
should I say
mean,
about one thing,
I really,
one thought in that regard?
I really, really, really want to be open
Yeah.
about this and about our partners and technological friends, because the worst case scenario, and that's not being discussed there, is we don't know how the deal was made. We don't know if the DEA stood in front of the Microsoft building with like 50 agents saying, "Okay, we'll either raid you or you sell software to us." Maybe
Do
it's
you really
completely
think?
out
Do you
there.
really think they need to do that?
I, who knows? And
Or
um,
Microsoft was forced against their will to comply with the DEA?
who knows?
No, no, frankly, I doubt that. I really doubt that. And
Yeah.
that would be then again on the other hand, again, what we said like half an hour ago. Where do you draw the line, and why do you take which side of the line? So question yourself. I feel like Microsoft, and I would give them the benefit of the doubt there. Um, I would say, okay, they wanted to do something good, like complying with those guys, right? With their government cloud. Totally get that. And if it's paid for well, then why not? So I doubt that they were forced to sit down with the DEA guys, because frankly, if you look at the emails, there's no such thing as force being applied. There is a thing as a sales pitch being executed there. So Microsoft was basically trying to sell something to those guys. It's not like that. Not like those guys were basically, forcing Microsoft to do something. Absolutely not. And on the other end, the bad guys. Perhaps Microsoft did not make some sort of an official pitch there, but definitely, the environment is usable for them. Um, and that's frankly, that's even not what I am afraid of, or what scares me in that regard. Because as an organization, I mean, you cannot do very deep background checks on each of your customers. It's simply not possible. It would not scale, right? Although you could perhaps do that. But on the other hand, I mean, as long as they are complying with the laws, everything is fine. The thing that scares me is basically then again Microsoft trying to sell something which they know is not ready, which is not accurately working, um, just for the sake of being good. No, for the sake of doing business.
So we have two sides of the deal. We have one party who has a lot of pictures and doesn't have the right machine to work with them, and we have another company who doesn't have the profiles and pictures but has very, very good algorithms. You see where this comes together, but
And then again, where do you draw the line?
where do you draw the line? Corporate, yeah, corporate responsibility. This could go on and on and
But
on,
but, but
couldn't it, huh?
I tell you where I would draw the line. Frankly, I would draw the line basically where they perhaps build in backdoors into their public cloud ecosystems for those guys. That's basically that's a the reddest of the red lines. That's basically where I would basically freak out, and frankly, I suspect them having done that.
I'm going to be really consequent on this. I'm going to be stop using the DEA.
And I stop using buying my drugs by dealers that work on Microsoft Cloud.
Don't buy from dealers on Teams.
No, but then again, and that's a serious thing. Where do you stop? Again, I expect backdoors to be there, many, frankly. And then that is a twofold kind of story then again. Because, yeah, could be good if you want to look for criminals, but who defines who or what is a criminal?
Well,
If
the,
POTUS is basically saying all of those guys who are not voting for him are criminals,
yeah.
to me that sounds like a very valid, kind of definition.
Yeah, it's the whole concept. I mean, we're talking about the Drug Enforcement Agency, right? And that's a topic for itself. Where do we draw the line with personable responsibility and usage? And basically, everybody has the freedom to put in himself or herself whatever they please. And why would there be what it's the chicken and egg problem. If there were no cartels and dealers, there was no DEA, and if drugs were legal, there wouldn't have to be cartels, there wouldn't have to be a DEA, right? But that's not how it works in reality. So
The
um,
companies would behave properly. If the states would behave properly, we wouldn't even need something like VPNs, right?
oh, you want to do the VPN thing? So I have 6 minutes left until I have my next meeting. That's so
No
sad.
problem. Speed up your VPN connection.
Firefox VPN, interesting. Yeah.
And it's not even Firefox VPN. It's not done by Mozilla. It's
Yeah.
basically based off Malvet VPN, a Swedish one. What do we make out of that before your next meeting starts? Good
Hmm.
thing, bad thing, democratic, some sort of a democratic VPN?
Well,
Do we
you know, I,
do we have
I,
something to hide?
I mean, the thing is that that's where it's that's the fun thing. It's contradictory. It's open, but it's private. It's an open tool to enable privacy. Um, yeah. The thing is very, very often, why do we have VPNs to have direct endpoint connections coming from outside of the internet, behind a firewall, and being secure while doing that. But the problem we have very, very often, this works when I'm going from my business laptop to my business network, but it doesn't work very, very often when I'm trying to securely share something in a direct line, in a direct network, with somebody who's outside of my own domain and outside of my own rule sets and firewall setup or whatever it might be. And having an open standard there, and being able to say, hey, if I need to integrate you, if I need to include you into my network for some reason or the other, let's not have to call Cisco, and let's not have to call all the other companies to ensure that we have a license and we're not, going against their terms and conditions. But there's something there where we can do it on a very, very open basis. But yeah, I'm not a network admin.
Still costs money.
Yeah,
$5 a month.
yeah.
Although, frankly, I feel like it's a good idea, not only for business communication, also in regard to privacy, because you can use kind of VPN software to basically tunnel your connection towards some other server.
Yeah, we've all sent
Encrypted.
pictures through the internet that we wish we hadn't, right?
Do you have something to hide? I do.
No, but I just had an idea.
I
We're
do.
gonna
I
we're
do
gonna
have to
create
hide things.
we can, with the new very open version of a VPN, we can create Tinder VPN edition. I don't know where I'm getting at. Tinder VPN edition.
Frankly, that discussion that went definitely the wrong route. We should continue it. We should continue on it online, and we should continue next week, because we left out so many news this week.
Oh,
We will
oh,
have to catch up next time. For the time being, please follow us on the Data Collecting Network Twitter. Share your data with us. Our Twitter handle is open.clouds.dev. My personal Twitter handle is Zamashke. And if you want to get informed about news, head over to our sponsor and to our supporters of the Cloud Report, https:// the-report.cloud.
please like,
support for
share,
us.
and subscribe.
And yeah,
Oh,
please
and
do that.
if we did piss the viewers off in any form or said something you would like to discuss about, please leave comments, write us an email, get in contact, and I'm sure we'll talk about it in the next episode.
Or we will just ignore it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Let's stop it here. It's not getting any better. Chris, see you
Karsten,
next
it
week. It
was
was awesome.
awesome. Thank you and enjoy. Bye bye, world.
See you.